Rigel Benton. I am the interaction designer at 8th Wall. We also have in the house Tony Tamarchio, our Director of Technical Operations, and Tom Emmerich, our VP of Product. And as we sort of go throughout this, we're going to, if you have any questions or you run into any issues with anything, Tony's will be walking around helping people resolve those issues, as well as you can ask me a question anytime if I'm going too quickly or there's anything that you want clarified. This is all very, very new to all of us. We launched this product, the 8th Wall Cloud Editor, on Tuesday. It's been like a really crazy journey getting to that point. And I'd like to play a video to sort of introduce what the product is, and then we can sort of go into how it works and what we're going to be doing today. All right? Get audio. Is it playing? Should be music. The music is quite fun. I could beatbox, but that'd probably be quite distracting. So here we go. So it's entirely in browser, and it's included with all of our AR plans. And if you're not familiar with 8th Wall, So in the last year, 8th Wall released, or I guess last year 8th Wall released a product called 8th Wall Web, which was our full JavaScript implementation of our SLAM engine. And what that means is you can run, for the first time ever, and still to this day, we're the only solution for true markerless AR in the web browser that runs in JavaScript. It doesn't use ARKit, it doesn't use AR Core. It just runs using clever algorithms that involve WebAssembly and the power of the web browser. So that was really exciting for us last year when we announced that. And then I would say 4 months later or so, we announced image targets. Oh. I'm show and telling right now. We announced image targets, which were a really great way of getting the content in the world to sort of respond to you instead of just having to be able to spawn things anywhere you want to. And then what's really interesting about that is it works in tandem with our SLAM engine. So you can do really interesting things like have creatures come out of the wall and then sort of land on the ground and then run around your space. And because we have a modular framework that allows for all these different things to happen at the same time, you can also add things like face tracking and ML object recognition and all these things that your own computer vision stack can sort of integrate into ours, and you can still have AR along with all of those extra things. So in doing all of this, we learned a lot about sort of the demands of our customers, which are usually agencies and businesses that are creating branded campaigns for all kinds of things. Like Spider-Man was mentioned, Lego, there's a bunch of pop-ups, fashion brands that are using this right now. But one of the things that we learned throughout the last year was just sort of how disjointed all the different tool sets are to do everything from the actual development to serving, and even things as small as having to plug your phone into your computer to debug it, right? And so what we did was we learned a lot from all of this, and we decided that we were going to set out to build the absolute best set of tools for WebAR development, and that's what we've done. So this is what we're going to show you today. And like I said, we call it our cloud editor and hosting solution. And it's accessible to anyone with an agency or business plan with 8th Wall for now. And if we all go to, you should have all received links. Does everyone see this Samsung WebAR workshop workspace in their browser? Does anyone not? Maybe that's a better better question. It should look like agency, web, Samsung. You don't see it? Okay, maybe, did you receive a link in an email to join? Okay, so we just need your email, and then we can add you to the thing. So Tony, just. We have, here, you know what? I will help you out right now. So you should see everyone in here. Okay, so here's everybody in the room. So if you see your name, you're good. If not, I can add your email. M-Y-U-N-G. E-T-E-L-I-E-R. Okay, cool. So check your email, and then you should get a link that will put your name in here. It looks like everyone at the bottom of this list has an invite out, but hasn't accepted yet. I'm going to go ahead and delete this. I was just goofing around with this one earlier.
Anybody else need help getting set up?
Cool. All right, then the first thing I'm going to do is we're going to want to create a new project. So you should all be able to do the same thing that I'm doing right now. And basically what I'm going to do is we're going to walk through creating a project, and then we're going to customize it. But what we're going to make is kind of fun. We're going to make a pumpkin patch demo where you can be able to tap on the ground, and we're going to grow pumpkins out of the ground wherever you tap. And then you'll be able to add text to this, and then send it out to anyone you want to as like the public link to like wish them a happy Halloween. So we're going to go through all that. But I will first sort of walk you through what the editor looks like. And to do that, I'm going to have my phone display. It's working. Okay. Oh, and sorry, by the way, I forgot to mention, we're going to do we're going to need some assets downloaded. If you go to this link, eighth.io/Samsung-workshop, you'll be able to access a Google Drive folder with a bunch of fun Halloween GLB 3D models, including the pumpkin that we're going to put in our scene. And I'm just going to slide this over here. Then once you have all that downloaded, you can just put that on your desktop or somewhere to come back to in a moment. So next, I'm going to show you. So I'm going to create a new project, and all of you should be able to do the same thing. You'll be able to create a new project, and then from here, you can call it whatever you want to. So I'll call it Halloween Samsung, and then everyone, don't call it what I'm calling it, or we'll all have a bunch of errors for trying to all create the same project at the same time. It's called the same thing. So I'll call mine Samsung Rigel, and then I'll call this Halloween Rigel. And then for here, you can change your cover image, you can add a description. And the fun thing about what we're doing here is all of this is going to become metadata in your links that you send out. So the title at the top, right, will show up as the title of your project whenever you load it. The cover image is pretty cool. So if you said to change the cover image, whatever you send in a text message, you post on Facebook, you post in a tweet, all of them will all have the same cover image that you upload to this point here. So it makes it really fun and simple to sort of customize your projects for sharing. And of course, at the bottom, you're going to want to click non-commercial as your project type. And then once you get all that set up, you can hit create. And then it should put you here, which is like your project dashboard. This is like your overview of whenever you launch a project, this is where you'll view all of your analytics around its performance over time. This is also where you will be able to connect a domain. So let's say you want to have this not hosted at rigel.8thwall.app, but instead you want to have it like actually on your business.com, right? Like you can do that with this by connecting up your own domain later. But for now, we're going to sort of move past a lot of that and jump right into the editor. So you can either hit this Open Editor button at the top right, or you can kind of open up this icon, and it'll ask you to create an 8thwall.app project. Here, and let me know if I'm going too fast. Is everyone still at this point? Cool. So from here, we're going to select the AFrame Placeground template. And once we've selected that, we're going to clone that project. So this editor supports, out of the box, we have templates for AFrame, 3JS, and Babylon.js. If you're feeling adventurous, you want to roll your own rendering engine, you can do that too. There's also blank file, if you're feeling really adventurous. And so this is what we'll see whenever we open up the project for the first time. And some things about the interface real quickly. So over here is where you're going to have, these are the files that come with the system. So these are things that every single app has. And this is how you will you'll add all of your code to sort or how you'll like reference certain aspects of it, right? So you can create as many different JavaScript files or whatever types of files that you want inside the files, and these you can move around, you can delete, you can create, you can put inside folders, you can reference in different ways. And of course, here's your assets. So we're looking at a tree model here, but this is where we'll upload all of our other 3D models and reference them through this file directory. Sort of over here, we have tabs that you can drag around, you can kind of click through, and then up along the top here, this is your client management screen or selector, and everyone starts with the default client. Clients work sort of similar to branches, where you can create a new client, which is you can name it whatever you want to, and what this is doing is it's cloning your master branch, and then now you can work outside of your master branch, and then whenever you eventually land your changes, it will then merge back your client into your master branch. But you have a single master branch that you share with everyone on your team, and as you make changes and land changes, all of those will be available here for you to see what what people are committing to the project. So you can kind of follow along, and of course, this is where your project is currently, or your current client is relative to the timeline of commits within the history. So all this will make a lot more sense when we start landing things and making changes. But you'll notice over time, as we continue to do this in a collaborative setting, that this sync button will sort of it'll turn on either yellow or orange, depending on whether or not there are incoming changes that require review. So something that would include like a merge conflict that you would need to manually resolve. We also have, this is all built in, so you can resolve merge conflicts through this, and you can, you'll be able to view diffs and other things such as that full source control requires. So you'll notice sort of as you create more complex apps, that most of the power of this will really start to come out. But for now, let's just see what we've built so far. So out of the box, if you click this preview button, you will be able to just scan this QR code. And what this will do is it will load in. You'll notice at the top here, it says Rigel-test-workshop.dev. And essentially what that is that's my user, so unique to me, test, which is my client that I'm currently on, workshop, which is our workspace, and then dev signifies that this is the dev branch. This isn't your master branch, and this isn't staging or public, which we'll talk about later, which are ways of different places of you can deploy your code. So this link is unique to me and my place right now. So other users, while they're editing, won't be able to see this unless you want to share this link with them.
Sorry, what are we scanning it?
Oh, yeah, sorry. So if you, so I used a QR code reader, which is built into the iOS camera app. But Samsung devices, I believe, Damon, they got QR code readers as well. Okay, great. Okay. If you just want to see what the actual link is and you don't want to do the QR code, this link right here is the same thing as the QR code. Oh no, so this is all outside the apps. Our XR remote app was for our Unity plugin a while back. So this is, so yeah, and if you'd like to just open up, the link in a different way, you can always right-click on this. One interesting thing about this, by the way, is you'll notice, so if I click on it on a desktop, then it should show me a QR code because we know you're on a desktop, and so we'll present a way for the user to get back to the mobile version. This comes with it. Of course, all of this is entirely customizable. This is a feature of what we call XR Extras, which is our sort of library that we include in all of our template projects to make it really easy for people to do this sort of routing for the user. And yeah, sorry, I can do whatever with this. So you can sort of see that this is how it works right now. So this is out of the box. This is what you get is an AR project where you can plant trees everywhere. But I figured, it's Halloween and the fall, and trees don't look like that right now. So we can go ahead and start making changes to replace these files, right? So one of the things that we want to do is, if everyone already has that folder that they've downloaded, they can actually just drag and drop all of these files right into the browser there, in this little pane, and it will dump all those GLB files right into your assets folder. And one thing that's kind of fun is, if you want, you can, call them, you can create folders and drag and drop them into the folders, and so we have full support for all of this, which is nice. But for the meantime, you can just sort of have them all out. And if you click through them, you sort of see what they all are. And they're all sort of different sizes. I just pulled these off of Google Poly. Great resource for getting low poly Halloween assets in a pinch. So this one's really big. Let's look at that. That's a chocolate bar. Man, that would win the neighborhood tonight. And okay, so now that we have all of those in here, we can actually start replacing those files, our tree file in the scene. So the first thing that you're going to want to do, if you haven't, actually show of hands, who in here has used AFrame before? Okay, great. Okay, awesome. So this project in particular is using AFrame, which is sort of a framework that lives on top of 3JS, and it makes it really easy. It was initially built for web VR development, and it's a really great resource for that. Makes it super easy to do that sort of thing. But in our case, it's really helpful because its entity component system makes it very, I want to say, Unity-like in the way that you sort of, you can create scripts that can get easily reused and attached to different assets. And it works really well with the sort of DOM web model that web front-end developers have been using forever to sort of describe these concepts. So I won't talk too much about AFrame, but one thing I will say is what's really helpful, and part of what I think is sort of Unity-like about it, is that in HTML, whenever you create a div, let's say, and then you want to have something inside that div that serves as a child component of its parent, then you would create the script tag and then wrap the script tag inside of another one, and then that's how you kind of create that relationship. So if you move the parent div across the page, the child follows. The same thing happens in Unity, and the same thing's happening in the AFrame. So in AFrame, if you do the same thing, but let's say you have an A entity, which would be the equivalent of a div in AFrame, and you want to put a 3D file inside of that, then just like Unity, you have a child object that's following around its parent, but it's represented in the sort of the DOM mental model for the web, which is really a cool way of merging those two things. So in AFrame, you load all of your assets at the beginning if you want them to be included as part of the initial load process. and something called AAssets, and then each one is delineated as an AAsset item. So that's what we're going to do right now, is we're going to create a new AAsset item. In this case, will be the pumpkin. So I'll assign it an ID, and I'll call it something I can easily write, pumpkin model. And then for my source, I want to be able to reference this. So your app and your files are all at the root of your directory, but all of these are inside of this assets folder. So to reference your assets, you're going to want to write assets slash, and then whatever it is. So pumpkin.glb, and then we can close it, and then now we have that loaded. But it's not actually in our scene yet. It's only been loaded at the top of our scene. We'll still need to put it somewhere. And so what's actually happening with all the logic that occurs whenever you tap on the screen to grow a tree is housed inside of this tapplace.js. And this is everything that's happening. So this is an AFrame component, so similar to what I was talking about before, where you can assign this anywhere you want to within your body, and then, or your A scene, which would be included in your body of your AFrame document. And then you can start referencing different things in the scene and changing the way that they behave from here. So essentially what this is doing is it's finding our ground object, which is called ground, and then on a click event, which in this case can either is tapping on your phone, right? So every time you tap on your phone, it registers a click event. Then we are creating a new element. So we're instantiating a new element. And if this is to here, and so if this is, let's see. So yeah, so you're instantiating new elements, and then what happens between actually seeing it and instantiating it is all this stuff, right? So we're getting the touch position on the screen, and then we're sending out a raycast to hit the ground object, right? From there, we're using that as like the position to place the object. The object starts, in this case it's a tree for now, at a really, really tiny scale, and then we apply an animation to it to make it look like it's growing. And in the meantime, we're applying random rotations every single time you click on it on the ground so that they all sort of don't look so uniform, right? So that's sort of how this script works. But a really easy way to make it from a tree to a pumpkin would be to go right here on line 20, where we're setting what the GLTF model will be. And then from here, we'll take not our path, but our reference to our ID from our pumpkin model that we just created, which has already been loaded into memory. So we'll just call this pumpkin model. And if I hit, you can either click Save and Build, or you can just hit Command S if you're on a Mac, or Control S on a PC. It will kick off a cloud build of what we just changed. And you can kind of see at the bottom here what's going on in the background. We have build has begun, and now I can even see my iPhone wirelessly connected through a WebSocket. And so now we have these massive pumpkins. These are way too large. But that's okay, because we can really easily change that. Oh yeah. So that's a behavior that you can add in AFrame, and it's also actually part of our XR Extras library as a way of easily manipulating objects. And so how you would make that work is we have a component called Gesture Detector, which allows you to very easily make complex gestures on touchscreens. And so you need to add that in the code to be able to represent that on the project. But we can, maybe in a minute or in a bit, I can show you sort of how that implementation would work. But for now, we have this pumpkin, and it's, like I said, it's much too large. This is where we're setting its scale to what it grows to. So if we change this to 2, 2, 2, which is scale X, Y, Z, so it's uniform, and we reload, it will kick off another cloud build. And a little bit about this remote debugger that's pretty cool is, like I mentioned a moment ago, it's entirely wireless. So cool, no, that works just fine. Got my pumpkin patch. And so you'll notice that I actually have macOS Chrome as well. That's because I opened up a tab earlier that said desktop view. So one really cool side effect of this is if you take a different device, if you happen to have another device with you, and you scan this preview code, you'll be able to see all of your devices connected at once with all of their different unique error messages that are coming in depending on what device you're using. And so I can actually try this on my own phone here, although you have to connect to Wi-Fi. Microsoft Guest. And then it's, does anyone remember what the Wi-Fi password was? Was it MS? It was like 305ZX? XZ. Okay. Can I see it? MS event. Awesome. There's a plus button just to the right of assets.
Yeah,
Does that work?
Right, so I downloaded a couple of free 3D models and things.
And it won't let you drag and drop the GLB?
Right, so I tried a couple different types of files, but
Oh.
I don't know.
Yeah, we don't support all 3D file
So
types
it's
right now.
only GLB.
Currently, yeah.
Okay.
GLB is it's the binary version of the GLTF format.
Right.
And we work really closely with the Kronos group to make that format really great. And currently, it's sort of like the best format for WebAR right now because it's fast and small and capable. Okay, so I got this all connected. So you'll see now I've connected my Note 10 to my project, and then that's showing up here. I think I have a couple tabs open on my phone, but so this is now connected. What's interesting is this also allows you to send eval commands. So not only can you view all of these messages, but you can send some as well back to each device. So if I do like an alert, hello there. If you notice on my iPhone, I'll get it instantly because it's all connected and live. So of course, this isn't super helpful, but for just sending alerts. But you can imagine being able to debug code without needing to reload your page, or needing to create buttons on screen that would then run tests, right? So that's also pretty helpful. So now that we have these like pumpkins working properly, if I want to land my changes to make sure that my team gets all of these changes, I can go up here to the right and I can click land. And then it's going to list all the different things that I'm changing, right? So not only did I change body and the tap place, but I also added all of these additional assets. And so I can say like added pumpkins. And then I can choose between land and publish or land. Land and publish is a shortcut to basically land all of your changes with this and then promote all of them to public at once. So this would be if you had a hot fix that you needed to get out immediately to the public build of your project. But I would recommend against it because you have all of these really robust deployment features that would make it easier to be more mindful of what you're pushing out. Yes? It's the land at the top right. Once you make a change, it'll turn green. And so what we're doing is we're making a change to our project, and then we're going to send that change and commit it to code. So your master branch is sort of it's like the timeline of your project, right? And so as other people in your team start making changes, you want to compartmentalize those changes as single commits. And so this way, you'll never get in a bad state when you have multiple people working on the same project. You're never going to overwrite someone else's code. Or
So then the save and build is your local copy, and then
Yep, exactly. Whenever you do a land, it sends all that to the master branch, and then now other team members can pull those changes into their project, merging them into yours, and then everyone is always on the latest thing.
and what file formats does it
So at the moment, we support GLTF and GLB for 3D file formats. They're like sort of the open source 3D file format of the web, which is why we really, really like it. FBX and OBJ and a few other types, they weren't really built for the web, so they're not as performant. And with WebAR, we're doing, real-time world tracking as well as rendering 3D objects in a really high-quality way. And so to maximize performance, that's why we support GLB. But in addition to GLB, you can upload video files and music, or audio files, images, and these are all, of course, super popular for using image targets to activate videos in places, and images that can interact with 3D content and that sort of thing. We can show you some image tracking stuff if we still have time. So we were landing everything, but we hadn't published it yet. So here's I'm still in my test thing here, but if I click on publish, well, first of all, I'll go to your commit history. You can see what I've done. I've added pumpkins, and you can see my name. So presumably, if I have a bunch of people on my team, then they can see all their changes and my changes, and then if somebody else had landed something ahead of me, then the sync button would change color, and I would see a land above my test branch or client. And so that's sort of what this view is for. This is also a link to the master branch, which if you click publish, you can see these are the 3 different environments that you have outside of your own personal dev environment. So there's 4 total. You have your own, you have master, which is the absolute latest build, or the latest commit that anyone has done. And then in addition to that, you have a staging deployment, which is password protected. So this is great for like betas, or if you're sending this to a client to get approval, and you don't want just anyone stumbling upon this link. And then you have public, which is, of course, is the, anybody in the world with any device can just click this link from anywhere, and then they get WebAR, right? Or AR. And that's really great, but it's also super powerful, which is why you want to, typically you want to have staging ahead of public, right? So this is like usually what you would see if you were doing this for a real project. You would be slowly, you would slowly begin like adding new things to the staging build, testing those things, and then but your public one is your most stable version of what you've built. And so so we make it really easy for you to sort of select which one you want and then hit publish, and it will just instantly reroute all of your content to the right place. And if you run into a bug, let's say, in public, and people are like, hey, my Spider-Man's head's missing or something, right? And you're like, oh my gosh, this is terrible. So you can actually roll back very easily and quickly your public build or your staging build to whichever commit that you want. But I'll just push them both. And back to what I was talking about with landing, if you hit that land and publish, it just puts both of them at the top. That's just what it does. It's sort of a shortcut for that. So now that we've published, you'll now see that we have these new links that are pointing to this latest build, and these are going to be your public and your staging deployments. And if you sort of, so now that we've deployed all of that, if you go back to the dashboard, you'll be able to see, I guess, not like make QR codes unless it's.
Back up to the project dashboard and create code. Back to the project history page and you copy.
Oh, I see.
Right click and say copy
So yeah, so if we paste this in,
Get rid of the HTTPS.
then this will, cool. This is a really easy way for you to generate a QR code, as well as a short link. So we create a short link service, which makes it way faster and easier for you to like read things out loud or send to people to fit on a page.
I thought when you publish it, it should automatically populate that.
Yeah, maybe that's a bug. And this is great. We've noticed that people are becoming a lot easier. They understand a lot more about how QR codes work out in the wild, and so a lot of our customers have been heavily leveraging QR codes to launch into apps. And the cool thing about this is that the 8th IO link is tied to the QR code. You can change this at any time to point to different things. So if you wanted to have your own custom domain, or you want to change something later, then you can update this, but you never have to actually update the QR code. So if you already have it printed on the movie poster or whatever, then you don't have to go back and reprint movie posters, which is bad. And so yeah, so we have this thing now running, and if I want to just go ahead and show you that this is legit, I can scan this. And now this is the this is now the public link running for anyone to use anywhere in the world, yeah, and it's all of our hosting, like I said, is all built in, and it leverages Amazon CloudFront, so it's insanely fast. It's edge hosted at like what 197 global points of presence. So what that means is, what that means is that whenever you add your pumpkin file, that pumpkin file now exists in Germany and Japan and all these places, so that it doesn't have to travel as far for you to load that pumpkin file. And how our asset system works is whenever you upload a modified version of that pumpkin file, that everyone gets the newest one, and we rechange our file name system so that they always get the newest version of that file, and you're never getting retreaded old cache information. So anyway, all of this is to say that it's like a really fast way of like updating, deploying, and managing all of your web AR content. And the next thing that I thought we could do is, now that you have all of these, well, first of all, this has been a lot. Does everyone have a working pumpkin public demo? Okay, so, and if anyone has hit a snag, then Tony could come by and sort of help figure out whatever you ran into. But if that's the case, what we could do next is, start adding all of these other components, similar to what we were looking at earlier with. Oh, okay. Say what? Oh yeah. So if you want to add text to your scene, the easiest way to do that is just going to be to go to right below your A entity on your body HTML, and then write an A-text, and then you're going to do value, and then I'm going to say Happy Halloween, and then Casey is my girlfriend. It's also her birthday today. She has the spookiest birthday. And then we're going to do position, and then we're going to do, let's see, 0, so it's on 0 on the X, and then I'm going to put it in the air. So I'm going to put 5, so it's just above the ground, and then minus, 8, which would be far enough in front of us so that we can read it. And then typically these things come in pretty small, so I'm going to up the scale by 3x, and then I can close this. I save and build. Now this guy is on the public link, so it won't see it, so I'll need to rescan my preview. Okay. Happy Halloween, Casey. Of course, it's all just white text, so you have to put some pumpkins in there to read it. But you can change that however you'd like. Say what? Yeah, so one really cool thing about WebAR is that all of this stuff is happening underneath HTML, right? Or underneath just your body of your document, right? So if you want to just add, like this is 3D text in a 3D environment, but it's also just a website, I guess is what I'm trying to say, right? So if you want to have CSS, animations, you want to use jQuery, you want to get fancy with your UI, I mean, of course, this supports React and Vue.js and a lot of these other more robust ways of serving up single-page app content. You know, you want to add live APIs to access weather. You can do all these things because it's just the internet, right? And these are just web pages. And that's part of like one of the really exciting things about it, right? So, you know, here, I mean, I can go outside of my async, for instance, and I can give myself like an H2 tag and say like hello there, and then somewhere on the page here. It might be out of the screen, but it's there. So these are just normal sort of things that you can add to a web page that make it really easy to sort of customize it. And of course, on our website, we have a ton of examples of like some of the fanciest things that you can do with this. And additionally, we have a glitch page where I have put together about 40 example projects of different ways that you can use eighth wall. And those, of course, can all be implemented in this system. And it's everything from, you know, figuring out how to do, you know, vertical surfaces, which is a question that we get a lot, to leveraging our image target API, which allows you to pull down dynamically image targets that you want to load into memory so you can scan without needing to reload the web page. So, for instance, we allow up to 1,000 image targets within each of these projects, and you can access any one of those at any time. So, one possible use case for this would be to set up geofences around a mall or outside somewhere. And then as you walk into each geofence, it then downloads new image targets for you to scan at each position. This is this is capable of like extraordinarily advanced things, and the use cases are really just wild. I mean, one thing that I saw a few months ago was a drone company they were using this as a way to look at 3D scanned map data of a city, and then being able to record as you fly through the city a path, and then that path would then be sent to them, and then they would send out real drones to go and follow that same flight path, and then they'd send you back the footage of what you were doing, but you didn't have to download an app to do it. And I mean, these are just really novel use cases of what this technology can do. And what's entirely remarkable about what we just did was we didn't have to open up an app on my computer or on my phone. We're all in browser, right? If we wanted to do all of this demo on my iPhone, I could have done that, right? As well as streaming back the note debug information to my iPhone. I could do that too, right? And if you want to use your iPad, you know, up, and then you want to have a split window with, you know, the right side being what the AR view is seeing and the left side being your code, you can do that. In fact, just yesterday at SDC, we did a demo with Dex on the Note 10, where we plugged in just a single phone into a TV, and then we had a keyboard plugged into that, and then we were using a keyboard and a mouse in a desktop environment, and on the right side, it looked just like this screen. We had the AR view from the phone, and on the left side, the full code editor. So it really changes the way that you can develop, where you can develop, you know, Chromebooks, I don't know. I might try this on my PlayStation this weekend. We'll see. But yeah, if there's any other questions? Yes? That is, we get this request. That would be an awesome thing to put on our Slack. So I was going to mention this. We have a dev Slack. There's like about 1,700 people on there. It's super active. If you run into any issues at all, or feature requests, which we absolutely respond to. Many of the things that we added to this were directly from suggestions such as that. I really encourage all of you to join that Slack and ask questions, help each other, and yeah, submit plenty of feature requests. Anything else? Awesome. Well, thank you so much for working with this. So new. Like I said, this came out Tuesday, so you're the first group to actually go through this publicly. So I would say, apart from some of the sign-up things, this went pretty smoothly. So congratulate yourselves.